And welcome to another grading video. If you want to learn how to grade comic books, or again, just learn how I do it, or if you just like looking at old comics, Tarzan and Turok, these are all from the 1960s, well then this is the video for you. So, stick around and have some fun. You just might learn something before we're done. Hey there, Buffy. Welcome to Shanghala. My name is Duke, and this is another grading video. So, hey, let's get right to it. You know, as I mentioned in the last video when we did a stack of Tarzan, I don't know a lot about Tarzan comics. I know probably even less about Turok comics. So, not going to be a lot of commentary this video. We'll kind of stick right to the grading. We'll start off with the beg. Please like, share, subscribe, do all the groovy things. Comment down below if you want to take me to task for my grading, or if you have something to say about either of these series. You probably know more than I do. And then, of course, the other thing is the disclaimer. These are not my books. I am grading these for work. These will end up for sale on eBay. The username is .comcomics. If you want to follow that account, that seller name on eBay, and these books will be up probably within a week or two of when this grading video goes up. We'll jump right into it. And so this whole stack really is, they're nice looking books. As I mentioned in the previous video, we don't get a ton of Tarzan and Turok, but when we do, they tend to be fairly low grade, 4s and 5s. These are all up in the 7.75 range. This one I think is going to be a 7. We've got a little bit of not much stressing, but, you know, a little bit there on either side of that staple. We've got a few stress marks down here, again, just at the staple. Got a little bit of a bend in that top corner, but otherwise the edges are all nice and flat and tight. Oh, well, that's not so good. We've got some wrinkling here, and I don't know what's up with this color fading. It almost looks like the book was drawn across something or scraped on something. There is a little bit of a tiny rip there. I call those micro tears if it's less than 1/8 of an inch. And we've got some color rub there as well. And oh, you know what? Those wrinkles go all the way through the book. A little hard to tell if that's something from handling or if that's kind of how it came off the press. Hard to tell. Hard to tell. Pages are kind of tan as well. But I think that book I think we can safely call that. Well, you know, actually, I think we're going to call it a 6.5. I almost said we could safely call it a 7. But I think it would be better off to call it a 6.5. That, by the way, is issue number 143 from 1964. And I know that because I've already gone through this stack and I've written down the numbers. Dell and Gold Key Comics were kind of notorious for not having the issue numbers out on display where you could see them. This one, I don't know if it was just bent or if that's a subscription copy, but it is certainly what we will call a subscription fold. And if you don't know what would happen back in the day when somebody got a book via subscription through the mail, the book would actually be folded right in half. Nobody thought twice about doing that because these were disposable consumer goods. These were not viewed as collectibles, something you would save. I mean, you weren't expected to save or hold on to this comic book any more than you were your latest issue of Time or you know, the daily newspaper. So folding it in half, shipping it in the mail with a brown wrapper around it. Nobody thought twice about that. You certainly couldn't do that today, but we've got this fold that goes the whole length of the book, and it's not just the cover because you can see it here as well on the back. So that goes all the way through. Even on some interior pages you can see it. So if a book is perfect but has a subscription crease, I'm hard pressed to call it anything higher than a 5, unless it's just really, really light. and this is not. You can see that pretty well. On this one, we have some stressing here and here. A little bit there, blunting at the top, blunting in that corner. This is, we've got a compression here. Well, that's all kind of bent in, and you've got some little micro tears to go along with it. So I think this book really has to be, and yeah, you see that blunting there with a little bit of a spine split starting. I think this book really needs to be a 4.5. I hate to do that. It kills me because, at first glance, it's a pretty good looking book. But subscription crease is just, those are ugly. I think the only thing I personally hate more than a subscription crease that I will detract more on a grade for is rust on the staples. Of course, water damage, but water damage is sort of self-explanatory. But when there's rust on a staple, boy, I'll knock that down 2 or 3 grading points. And I've got a real hard job to, like I said, to make a subscription crease anything more than a 5. I think we're going to call this one a 4.5 because you've got, again, these other things going on with it. So maybe you'll get that book and you'll be happy to have got it as a 4.5. Maybe you think that's a 5, or maybe you'd even call it a 6. But see, the thing about a subscription crease, you can't press it out. I mean, no matter how long or how hard you press this book, that's going to be there because it breaks the color all the way down. So anyway, that's my jig. This one says Tarzan, King of the Jungle, but it is, and it's number 37, right? And you would look inside and you would see Edgar Rice Burroughs, Tarzan, King of the Jungle, number 37, and you would think, oh, okay, well, it's Tarzan number 37. But Tarzan number 37 came out about a decade before this. This is 1960. This is actually part of the Dell Giant series. And again, we've got these R numbers, R922. And I think that's a return number or a pull date written on there by the retailer when they wanted to take it off the stands. And I say again because we talked a lot about that in the last issue and last issue. Last video. Sorry, I have comic book terminology on the brain. So the last video and the video or two before that, we've talked quite a bit about this collection that has these return dates written on them. Not really arrival dates because they tend to be 2 months before the cover date rather than 3. So I suspect they are pull dates. So anyway, this is part of the Dell Giant series, even though it doesn't say that anywhere but right there. And the indicia, the official name of the book, says that it's the same as the regular series we were just looking at. But this is from 1960, and you got some. The good thing about the Dell Giants is their square bounds tended to be and stay square bounds. A lot of the Marvel square bound books from the 60s, and the 70s, they'd be all crushed along here. But these stayed nice and square. But the problem is you got color breaking all kind of along this edge and along that edge. There are no real tears to speak of. A little bit of a folding there. But I think we can call that a 6.5. I don't think it's quite nice enough. And you actually have a little bit of a kind of a bend there. It doesn't break the color. That could be pressed out. But I think we got to call this a 6.5. I don't think we can quite get to a 7. Just because, again, all the color break. There's really no stressing, but just the act of reading a square-bound book has broken the color all up and down that spine. And this next book is also part of the Dell Giant series, although it will say inside that it is Tarzan number 51. It's not. It's Dell Giant number 51. And this is a decent looking book. You've got a little bit of a compression there, but not much else going on. Well, the spine is all, oh, somebody dropped it or what. But you've only got kind of that stress there. And the color is really not broken at all on either side of the spine. Somebody has written a return date on it. I think, I would be tempted to call this an 8 or maybe even an 8.5, except for how crushed in that top. Well, if I get it down here on the where you can see it, hold it up here, and you're like, "See what I'm pointing at? Can you see that?" No, you can't. But let's get a little closer. See how crushed that is, all the way around. So I think the best I can do there is a 7.5. It's really a beautiful looking book, except for that. And this Dell Giant, what year is this one? 1961. That's really a good looking book for 1961. That probably wasn't what read maybe once or twice, and of course dropped once. But 7.5, that's okay. That's a good bit of okay. Now let's look at some Turok. So, I mean, Turok is pretty famous for his video run, or his Valiant run, I should say, and his video game. But I don't know much about Turok the comic, other than, and I can't think of his name, there was a writer that Mark Evanier, or Evanier, however he wants to pronounce his name is fine with me. But there's a writer he is touted as the most prolific writer in the history of comics. I can't remember the guy's name. I'll look it up and put it in a box here in the video, or if I forget to, you can leave it in the comments. But he wrote all or most of the Turok stories. Oh, that's a bad day. In the head. Yeah. So I'm looking for the centerfold, and it's good. It's nice and tight. I like to see that. So this book is what going. A little bending here, a little warping. Again, back cover is a little browned up. We got a indentation here. Something sharp hit it, and that corner right there is torn off. If you can see that. And you're missing a corner here on this side as well. So I think, but again, the rest of this book looks nice. All nice and tight here. Again, some blunting here. But these edges are nice and tight. It does have a return number, R12, written there, which you really have trouble seeing. But you only on the spine, you've only got 1, 2, 3 stress marks. I think I am going to call that a 6, even though it is missing little bits of this corner and that corner. The rest of the book looks nice enough that I think we can really call it a 6 with some confidence. Here's another one, still 10 cents. Still 10 cents. And here we've got, if I hold it right in the light, you can see we've got a fold going all the way down. And you got one here too, but it only goes about that far. That is probably somebody folding back the cover, possibly. That arrival date or pull date there. But there's not much for stressing on the, I was feeling to see if that staple was loose. It looked like it might have been, but it's not. It's good. Pages are a little nicer on this one. Centerfold's nice and tight. So really, all this book has got wrong with it, pretty much, are these folds here. Problem is, those are pretty major. I mean, that goes the whole length of the book. But could it be pressed out? You know, it's got a little bit of color breaking, but not a lot. You know, at first, and if you hold the book just right, it looks like a 7, maybe a 7.5. Otherwise, it's like, do I want to go to a 5.5? I don't think I do, though. I think I'm going to call that a 6. I'm going to call that a 6, and I'll leave it to you to buy that and press it out and make it a 7 or even a 7.5. This book, though, and here Dell's gone up to 15 cents. This is tough. This, and I don't know how they did this. They really bent that edge back. I mean, it almost looks like they put it in a vise, doesn't it? And I don't know what's going on here. That staple, if I feel it with my nail, is there rust on it? See, it looks like there might be a little rust, that discoloring. With my nail, I really don't feel it. It's hard to see it. Oh no, there's rust on both of those staples. So, I don't know what's going on there. So, I mean, you look at this book and you're like, wow, that looks great. That's an 8. But this bend is significant. I don't think you could press that out. And the rust on the staples. Like I've mentioned, I hate rust. I do hate rust on staples. So I think I'm going to end up calling that I think I could call it a 5. And I'd like to, again, I hate rust. I'd really like to go to a 4 or a 4.5, but it's a decent looking book except for these defects, you know. And if you put it in a case, if you put that in a CGC case, that would be a really, really nice book that you would be proud to hang on your wall. But it's when you flip it over and you see that whole spine bent. I mean, can you see how bad it's bent? Probably not, because my lighting isn't very good. Oh, there, maybe on the bottom you can see it. Yeah, it's still not showing up. I mean, it's almost a right angle. Like I said, it almost looks like somebody put it in a vise. A vise grippy. All right. More Turok. And this is issue 27. We started at 21. We went 21, 22, 26. This is 27, 1962. Nice looking copy. Edges are nice and straight. Very little blunting. Just a minor bend there that could be pressed out. Some minor stressing along here that doesn't really break the color. You do have a bend here, and again, it looks like it was dropped. So you can maybe see it a little better here on this side. So I think that's a little heavy. That bend there is a little too heavy for me to go 7.5. So I think I'm going to have to call it a 7. But boy, it looks nice. It really, really looks nice. I mean, it almost looks like an 8, or God, you go, oh, that's a 9. But once you really look at it, this bend down here is, and of course, I mean, just the yellowing, and you get a bend here too. So I think, actually, screw it. I'm going to call that a 7.5. I am going to call that a 7.5 because it's a nice looking book. And it's just got really that bottom corner is the problem. All right, here is a nice looking cover to number 28, 1962. All your corners are tight. We do have a return date written there. This corner's a little blunted. 1, 2 stress marks. A little bit of blunting in the bottom. No stresses carry through. What's our circulation? Turok was doing pretty good. Average number of copies sold preceding 12 months, 377,145. So, before TV was really took hold, And before before the internet, before video games, comic books did pretty well. I mean, we just had, what was it? What book just sold 300,000? Was it the Batman Three Jokers? And people went crazy that it sold 300,000 copies. Well, here we have freaking a mid-run Turok doing 377. I think I'm going to call this, I'm going to call that an 8. And some people would call it an 8.5, but I don't feel quite that brave. And that's mainly because of the kind of browning on the back. All right. Well, here we have, that corner's blunted in pretty good, but again, not much for stressing. Like 1, 2, 3. That's it. Some blunting there. Looks pretty good. Back cover again, kind of around. See again how blunted that is. I think this one, that's pretty rough. I might have to go to 6.5 on this. Interior looks okay. A little browning on the edges. Tanning. Yeah, see, can you see it's got kind of a spine split starting. So I'm going to go 6.5 on that one, even though, I mean, just casual eye appeal, it looks great. It looks like a 7, 7.5, 8, but that corner's kind of mangled. Mangled more than I would like to see. Boy, we're getting down to it. We're getting near the end here, Bubby. What was Turok, was it his brother? There was always two of them running around together. And I don't know the other cat's name. We've gone gold key. Pinup number 1, which is again just a virgin front cover, other than putting the pinup number 1 there. See that bottom corner's kind of blunted, and you've got some tearing. Other than that, it looks pretty decent. Not a lot for stress marks, but it's blunted up top and bottom of spine. I'm going to call that 7.5. I don't think I can go quite to an 8, just because, again, this here got a little, not quite a tear, but almost a tear there. But I think I can safely call that a 7.5. Penultimate issue. This is number 41. Got kind of a fold here. A little blunting there, but the corners are pretty decent. Blunting there. Got a few spine ticks along here. You can see here how blunted that is. I think this one, I might be able to get away with calling it a 7, but I would feel more comfortable at a 6.5. So that's what I'm going to do. And this is issue 43. It's a nice painting. It really is. Our corners are more square this time, although we do have a little tiny tear there, about 1/8 of an inch. Bend here that doesn't break color. Back cover looks decent. Some stresses. We do have there a tear here. Something impacted it here and ended up tearing about 1/8 of an inch, both the front and back cover. But apart from that, I think we could probably call this one as well as 7.5. Well, maybe a 7, because this one's actually a little browner than the rest of them. And that tear does go, like I said, it's only about 1/8 of an inch, but it looks like it goes through the entire book. So I'm going to call that a 7, because that tear there is really about all that's wrong with that. I mean, in any appreciable way. So that's a 7, and that is it. That is the last of the Turok books. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had some fun. If you have any comments about Turok or about my grading, say so down below. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Give a thumbs down if you think I really flubbed it up. But otherwise, other than that, we'll be back next time with some more books to grade. Thank you very much for watching, and until we meet again, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.